The GTX 690 is a very strange graphics card as it features two underclocked GTX 680s on a single PCB with 2GB of GDDR5 VRAM per die, meaning you could only utilise 2 of the 4GB, which was an odd choice as there was 4GB GTX 680 models available. Also, this GPU is restricted up to a two-way SLI configuration. The 690 was only released with an Nvidia reference blower style cooler, so no aftermarket AIB partner cooler variants were released except for custom water cooling blocks. This card retailed at $1,200 Aussie dollars or $999 US dollars on release back on May 3rd, 2012. For price reference, a single 2GB GTX 680 was about $400 to $450 Aussie dollars at that time. So what was the purpose of this card then? Well, if you wanted the most powerful single consumer grade graphics card, this was it, which made it perfect for a motherboard with only a single 16X PCI slot or a powerful mini ITX rig. This card doesn't require a motherboard with SLI support to properly operate, meaning you could cheap out on your board to try and afford this thing. Also, the 690 can run both chips at 100%, meaning you wouldn't have the performance loss that two separate GPUs running an SLI have. This card would have also made one hell of a workstation GPU back in the day with 3072 CUDA cores and a memory bandwidth of 384GB per second. The I/O is quite strange, featuring no HDMI port at all, which really limits this card's usability, yet has two DVI-D ports, one DVI-I port and a mini DisplayPort 1.2, with a mini to full-size adapter included in the box. The 690 requires 300 watts of power to operate, which is supplied by two 8-pin PCI connectors. The base clock speed of each chip is 915 MHz, but the card boosted up to 1079 MHz on both cores, which I then overclocked it to 1189 MHz. The memory clock speed was 3000 MHz, but I managed to bump it up to 3650 MHz, which makes it 7300 MHz effective memory speed, which is an insane overclock. I benchmarked this card in 10 games that have been released over the last 5 years to see how the 690 scales over time. For temperatures, GPU die 1 reached 81 degrees and die number 2 reached 78 degrees, which is below the thermal threshold. In conclusion, I have to admit I was highly impressed with the performance of this 5-year-old graphics card. You may not be able to max out the settings, especially with the only 2GB buffer, but I was pleasantly surprised to be able to run most games at high. It may have been king back in the day, and some people still believe it to be so, as second-hand prices can generally range from 200 to 400 Aussie dollars. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like, and if you really enjoyed it, please consider subscribing for more graphics card benchmarks and other content in the future. If you have a suggestion, question or criticism, leave a comment, and thank you very much for watching.